Hi guys, this is Dr. Sadasivam once again with you. In today's video, we will be talking about the overview of inflation as on June 2021, and we will also be talking about various options available in front of Reserve Bank of India and Government of India. Guys, as we all know, when we revise our theoretical knowledge little bit, inflation is the rate of increase of absolute prices. So high price is not inflation as long as prices are stable. On the other side, if there is a decrease, it's called as a deflation. Now inflation can be caused through so many means. One is a cost push inflation, then you have something which is called as a demand pull inflation. As the name suggests, cost push inflation happens when the prices of input commodities go up. For example, we have seen in the recent past there has been an unprecedented rise in the commodity prices, whether it is steel, zinc, aluminum, rare metals like palladium, rhodium, etc., as a result of which the prices of cars, automobiles have increased. We have seen all those news items 5-6 months back when most of the prices of the input commodities have increased. I've shared some of the interviews with Shashank Srivastav, executive director, and hosts of other automotive veterans like Rakesh Srivastav, etc. That is cost push inflation. The prices, the inputs of automobiles rise because of increase in raw materials. The second is demand pull. When too many people demand a particular product, then also prices go up. These are the two kinds of inflation. Now we are going to talk about the inflation which affects the common man. Normally the inflation is measured through two metrics. One is CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, and the second, which is WPI, Wholesale Price Index. Both these are important, but what affects the common man is the Consumer Price Index. So we will be talking more about the Consumer Price Index. This involves calculating the increase in prices of a fixed basket of commodities. Now, if you talk about the fixed basket of commodities, what does it involve? It involves things that a common man consumes on a daily basis: your rice, your wheat, your oil, milk, egg, bread, tomatoes, onions. These are some important things. Your tomato, onion, potato, and host of other things. We will not get into the weightage, etc. But based on the price of fixed basket of commodities, inflation is measured. Now the base year for inflation as far as government is concerned, 2012. That is the base year. So the general inflation will be 100 and the increases in prices will be compared to this base year, very much like we use the same standards for Sensex and Nifty, right? If you remember, I've mentioned all this in a different video in the stock market series. For example, Sensex was done way back in the early 80s or late 70s when the base year was 100, and the Nifty started little later. I think it was mid 90s, 1995 or something like that, when it had 50 companies and the base year was 100 for Nifty. So it's much similar to the stock market base years. We have base year for inflation, which is 2012, which is measured in terms of 100 on that particular year. Now prices are approximately, these commodities are measured in more than 1,000 rural and urban markets, right? Approximately 1,000 urban markets. Because if you do it only for urban market, it might skew your ratios little bit here. So just to have a representative measurement of the actual inflation, you consider both rural as well as urban markets, approximately 100 rural places and 100 urban places, which covers various states. It covers various union territories and selected from all over the country, right? Now, who does that survey? It's generally done by field staff. those fields of, go to each of these places, check out the prices of these commodities, accumulate that, put that through a mathematical modeling tool, and then ultimately the inflation percentage is calculated. For example, in the month of May, that is last month, it was 6.3%. Now, is it inflation? Yes, of course. Compared to 4% in April, it has increased to 6.3 in the month of May. So obviously the prices have increased. So it is an inflationary trend. Now, what is worrying is that the core inflation, excluding food and fuel, is also at a 7-year high. Normally what happens is, many a times the inflation does not give you the correct measurement because you have food, you have fuel, and so many other things. So once you take out those important things, fuels, etc., in spite of that, it is at a 7-year high, which is 6.55%. So we will look at some factors which are influencing. The very important factors. First is the rise in food prices, which includes your cereals, vegetables, oil, etc., etc. Secondly, you have supply side disruptions. Supply side disruptions are largely because of the COVID second wave. There have been restrictions in the movement of food grains. There have been issues of transportation. Many a times when the transportation was available, drivers were not available because they have gone back to villages, all caused by the first and the second wave of COVID. And you also had localized lockdowns. So when sentiments are affected, you get into a vicious circle, and one leads to another, and you're going to see shortages. You see labor going back to village during the first wave, and in the second wave of COVID, the rural areas were much more affected compared to the urban areas. All of that have led to some kind of asymmetry in the labor distribution across the economy. Labor shortages have been there during the second wave. Now, apart from that, one very important point is the southwest monsoon. Southwest monsoon is extremely important because it irrigates more than half of India's cropland, right? Very, very important. India is largely an agri-based economy, guys. Large part of population depend on it. Not in terms of percentage of GDP. Percentage of GDP may be very less, but maximum GDP is from the service sector. At least in the last 1 or 2 decades, there is a big shift which is happening in our economy, transforming from an agri-based economy to a service-based economy. The share of manufacturing is also going down, and government is taking a lot of actions, PLI schemes, Atmanirbhar, etc. I'm putting up a separate video. I request each one of you to go through all those videos because that will help you get a overall bird's eye view of what is happening in the Indian economy. That will help you to crack some of the questions asked in prelims as well as in the mains essay type questions in IAS, IPS examination. So typically we were talking about the southwest monsoon because it irrigates more than half of India's cropland, and more than 70% people depend on agriculture, right? The quality of rain largely determines your agricultural production, because all said and done, this quantity of rain is a sine qua non necessary condition for lower prices, especially your top. We have already talked about top. It is tomato, onion, potato. Very important ingredients that has always been the bane of inflation. We have seen instances where onion prices have touched 150 rupees. Potato prices gone up. These are the bane of inflation in our country. Many governments have fallen on account of your potato and onion, right? Political parties have lost elections because of onion prices. So this is a very, very important bone of contention as far as inflation is concerned, right? Now, as in the month of June 2021, what is the outlook? General outlook as forecasted by most economists that the inflation will remain to be high for the next couple of months. We are in July now, August, largely because of important things like your edible oil prices going up, your crude oil prices going up. Crude oil is largely imported, and that has a very major effect on the inflation. Your edible oil, we import a lot of edible oil from foreign countries for which a lot of foreign exchange is required. That also leads to inflation. So keeping some of these constraints in mind, the RBI has to maintain the price stability, which is one of the most important jobs. And in order to do that, RBI takes recommendations from MPC. We have already talked about MPC, which stands for Monetary Policy Committee, right? But at the same time, if you do anything to control inflation, then growth suffers, because when the liquidity is increased, there's so much of money in the hands of people that inflation happens. Now, if you want to suck the liquidity out from the system, people will have lesser money, and that will have other implications, especially as far as growth is concerned. Growth imperatives. But growth is also important. You will not be able to control the inflation unless you put the lever of interest rates, which Reserve Bank of India always keep doing. They pull the levers. Like I explained in one of the levers, once upon a time, 10-15 years, MPC used to meet once in 6 months. The Reserve Bank of India will come with an policy on interest once in 6 months, but considering the high volatility, considering the pace of change that is happening in India, the MPC is meeting every 2 months, and depending on the situation, we keep on revising. Something like an acrobat is balancing his walk on the rope, because if you do something here, it's affecting the other side. If you do something there, it is affecting this side, and that is why high level of skills are required in order to balance your growth and inflation objectives. There have been lots and lots of supply side issues. We are all witness to that because of COVID, your transportation, your lockdowns at the local levels, migration of labor from cities to villages and villages to cities. All these things have created huge level of supply side constraints, and all that needs to be addressed by the government. Of course, the government is doing whatever it can, and whatever has been discussed on this MPC meeting, that is Monetary Policy Committee, in its meeting on 2nd, 3rd, 4th of June. We have already released a video. I've done one in Hindi also. I will try to provide a link of that in this description in this, and you can go through those videos also to get a clearer understanding of what is what. Now, what immediately can be done? Obviously, the government has taken this accommodative stance, but this will continue for some more time. We will continue to put liquidity in the hands of people. The government will keep increasing the money supply. Little bit of inflation will be there, but the government is not in a position to compromise growth, because at this point in time, growth impulses are much more important than inflation, and that is why the government has adopted this accommodative stance. We really don't know when the next recommendations of the MPC will come, what they will say, etc., etc. But many economists have said, especially Soumya Kanta Ghosh, who is the chief economist in State Bank of India, in one of his interviews, he's very clearly said that there are 14.5 lakh metric tons of pulses available with NAFED. NAFED is the place which stocks all this, and he very clearly says that they can offload 20-25% of their stocks, because once you do that, that's a commonly consumed item, and that can control the inflation to some extent, and you will be able to balance your the growth impulse, growth objectives and the inflation objectives. These are extremely important from the perspective of IAS, IPS, Civil Services exam 2021. The prelims have been postponed. It's a good news for all of you. It's a good news. It has given you extra time to prepare all this. I will be putting a couple of videos on very important topics, very important subjects. Kindly go through those subjects. I'm sure you're preparing from various other materials, but questions may not come exactly on those specific topics. Somewhere the topics might come, and you need to know how you can introduce bit of that, how you can introduce them into those topics, so that you can put forward all these data in a cogent manner, right? Knowledge is important, but connecting the dots is extremely important. Don't expect some straight question will come. Absolutely not. Some point from this video, one or two from that video, one or two from the other video. You should remember all that. The numbers you should remember, the agency who is doing that, the names of important people, because that is what is going to give you a very, very important edge across, against your competitors. This is different from a normal examination, your graduation examination. The normal exams which we give in colleges, if you score above a certain percentage, you have passed the examination and the degree is given to you. But unfortunately, in IAS or IPS, it is not the question of passing the examination, right? Because they follow something called as elimination. They only think to pass in that examination, you need to be in the top 200 in the country. It's not a question of passing the examination. It's a question of how well you're coming up with your points, your data, your essay questions. If you're not in the top 200, you're not in the IAS. If you're not in the top 400, you're not in the IPS. So based on ranks, these kind of services are allotted, and all the reason why your preparation needs to continue on a daily basis, and there is no room for complacency as far as IAS, IPS entrance is concerned. Hard work is what is important, and I will be putting up a video. And listen to me very carefully, right? In some videos, I've talked about inflation. In some video, I've talked about tapo tantrum. In some video, I've talked about the overall economy. Some we have talked about corona. It is not a 10th standard question where they will ask you, please write about corona. They will ask, how do you think the impact of inflation will affect the common man? It will be a question like this. So you have to take 1 or 2 points from tapo tantrum, 1 or 2 from here, 1 or 2 about instances what has happened, 1 or 2 about meetings, 1 interview by the finance minister where what she had said about inflation, something from the finance secretary in one of his interviews in some channel where he says what steps the government will be taking in the next 3 or 4. Something like that. You cannot have all these in one single paper like a masala, like a biryani masala. Surely not. But how do you pick up those skills? You keep listening to these kind of lectures on a regular basis. Every day you listen to 10 lectures of mine. In bits and pieces, things will go and sit in your mind, so that when a suitable question comes, you will be able to connect the dots, 1 or 2 points from this video, 2-3 points from that video. This way you will be able to put up a much better performance compared to your other contenders, right? This is what it is, and wait for that particular video where I will give you tips and techniques in terms of how to connect these dots. How can you introduce this data into some other topic, something like curve fitting that we do in mathematics. Remember that? Asymptotes and curve fitting, you can do all that. These are small techniques, but extremely effective, right? Some data, 1 or 2 data here will give you an edge over your competitor, which can give you over your competitor, which can give you 5-10 marks more than him. That is enough. He gets into some subordinate service, you get into Indian administrative services, but both of you sat through the same examination. You gave 1 or 2 data, that guy did not give data. Now you are an IAS officer, he is in a group B section officer in some government of India agency, right? He's no less intelligent than you, but you played it smart. Little bit of hard work you did. You went by guidance from people like us, from teachers. You followed their advice. You did due diligence. You sweated it out. You did. That guidance will put you in a much better state compared to the other contenders. Okay, guys. I hope you liked this video. We are coming out with lots and lots of videos. Go through all of that. When you get through the examination, please remember to send a message to me. Okay, guys. Bye-bye. See you. This is Dr. Sadasivam signing off till we meet again. Jai Hind.